I'm your Chair Talk host Nemanja, and this is retrospective from the last week episode with Alexander, Chief Marketing Officer of Telegroup.
There's a lot of approaches to innovation. You can copy something that works somewhere else and try to make it work in your own environment or setting. This is sometimes possible, but sometimes it is not. And I think thinking that is the only way to go is a problem. Then you can incrementally, improve your own existing products and services through different innovations, which is a normal way of a life cycle of a product or service. And also, there's a whole part of navigating the unknown. The trying to find out what our customer wants, or let's say what their business requires. We have our goals. We follow OKRs. That's our way of doing things, and making sure that we remain inspired. I really wanted to have my team feel the satisfaction of doing the work and actually seeing the results of their work, and seeing other people appreciating this.
This is Chair, place where we discuss innovations. And today, huge innovation. That big that completely changed business model and as it goes the whole industry. And it's more significant when we say which industry we are talking about. It's an industry that is entrenched in its own success for more than 115 years, advertising. On this subject, I have an immense pleasure to talk with Branislav Lončar, CFO of Publicis Southeast Europe. Bane specialized in evaluation of investments, audit and accounting, but there is much more to him than it meets the eye. Bane is youngest CFO that Publicis Group ever had. For a few years now, Southeast Europe cluster that he leads has the best KPIs all around the world. His team is responsible for ERP development that got highest marks from internal audit from Paris, and probably because of that and other successes that he has over the years, he got the Manager of the Year, Young Manager of the Year from Serbian Association Manager a few years ago. So, Bane, welcome to Chair. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you, Nemanja. Pleasure is mine. Thank you for calling me, and I'm very happy to be here with you today and to tackle some topics related to innovation.
And we are going to have very interesting one.
For sure.
I have said earlier about your accomplishments, and those are the things that you have worked on in the past. But I want to ask you what is now, and to be more precise, what is the future? That's our subject of today. Something that basically the broken business model that third biggest advertising corporation in the world has based on his business for decades. What is Marcel?
Marcel, when I speak about Marcel, I always like to compare it with something that Jung was speaking about as something which is collective unconscious, which is somewhere around us. And there is a big similarity with this comparing to Marcel platform, because actually Marcel is collecting total experience of more than 100,000 people around the world, different cultures, different philosophies, different skills and knowledge. And like Jung said, that this collective unconscious is around us. Definitely technology help us to build this around the thing which is called cloud. So we pack this platform in the cloud. And this is the similarity, I would say. So you can imagine the potential of having like 100 people in one place with all of the materials, training materials, case studies, experience that they share, and campaigns that they share. So this is something which is for sure a future of advertising industry. And yes, Marcel is built on artificial intelligence, based on artificial intelligence and machine learning. So basically, every day Marcel is developing. I like to say this is like a small child. So his IQ is growing every day as we are building this platform and giving to this platform more data every day and more experience sharing. So I think that publicists realize that this is the future of and new business model that advertising industry should go in the future.
As you said, it's a platform, and what is interesting for the platforms, it's usually platforms disrupt the business models and the industries. But usually, when its industry is entrenched and they have a huge success, disruptions come from outside. With the Marcel story is different. Disruptions come from within. What made you do that?
I think that the main trigger is I always like to go one step behind, to see what is the behind this, what was the trigger for that. And if you basically try to understand the industry, like you said, it's like 150 years old industry. And
successful industry.
Yes. So what is actually the potential and the big potential and the advantage of advertising industry? It relates to, at the beginning, it was like knowing the customers, understanding their needs and behavior. And you know that at first we have mass production. So basically it was the task of advertising industry was how to sold some of the goods and services that we are producing. And this was the main task, how to communicate this to the consumers. After that, when consumers change their behavior because of technology development, basically they have bigger demands, and that was the moment when the industry changed. So basically now this industry was collecting all of the data, research about consumers and their behavior, and basically this industry was helping to the clients how to produce and what to produce in order to sell. So now this is some kind of third phase, I would say, after the fourth industrial revolution, and this is something that basically gave us opportunity to do something internally, to be more agile, to be more fast in changing, because the environment is changing very fast. And this industry was, let's say, focused on consumer and clients. They were not focused internally on themselves. So after the big crisis in 2008, when it started, and when basically clients started to reduce the costs, I think that this industry was let's say first affected, and they realized that they need to change something. So basically that was the moment when they were thinking about environment and how should we adapt to this new environment, business environment. And Marcel is something that basically, we are speaking about platforms maybe 10 or 15 years even, but and there was a lot of ideas. But this, I think COVID was actually the trigger to fast up development of this platform. Marcel is something that basically changed the business model, and I will tell you why. Because I'm working for the corporation, third biggest world corporation, and the main task of those corporations, let's say 2 decades ago, was to have a good quality of service to their clients, but all over the world. It was very hard task because you need to establish a lot of agencies. You need to, shift this know-how to learn those people, and basically you need to have some, let's say, to secure the good service in every part of the world. And there's a lot of cost behind that, and a very heavy organization behind that. So basically, after this change that happened after this crisis, we need a lighter, let's say, organization and more flexible. And in order to do that, you need to go to the platform. So I would say that this was the trigger was mix of, let's say, crisis that happened, and let's say that we were a little bit behind all other industries. We were helping other industries, but we didn't help ourselves, to transform.
Yeah. So you mentioned COVID, and you haven't been working on Marcel for a year. I'm sure that has been there for quite a while now. But with COVID, maybe I can quote Seneca: "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Right? You got to push with COVID to go with Marcel. Did it help you during the crisis?
Yes, I would say that if you compare other industries, it's like everyone speaks about transformation, about being digitalized, automatization and optimization. But this is something that push you to be more faster in this kind of transformation, and this also happened to us, to our industry, and especially to Publicis and this project of Marcel. So basically, if COVID wouldn't happen, I think that this will last for maybe 2 or 3 years, this implementation and development. But because COVID happened, we realized that this is the only way during the COVID how we can basically operate, and this helped us to be more faster and collaborative with the colleagues and to finalize this project.
Can you tell me some plastic example how Marcel changed some part of the business model? Can you share with me some story?
Okay, we talk about COVID. So if I would use some examples from COVID, first I must say that even for myself, it was a big success, to go to working from home mode, because I didn't believe that this could happen, and
me as well.
Yeah. So this was like a big global test, if we could do it like that. A lot of logistic technical is about that, but when we started, basically we started from the 17th of March last year, and it was very successful. But we realized that we need to basically optimize our time, not to use just some of the, let's say, platforms that already exist, but we need to use our internal platform in order to optimize our time. So basically, first thing that I would mention is that due to Marcel, we were able to react on some of the trends on some of the markets, let's say, because not all of the markets were affected by COVID with the same size. So we have some markets that were in lockdown, and some of the colleagues, they didn't have job at that moment. In order not to dismiss those employees, basically using this platform of Marcel, we were able to connect those people to some other places in the world where we need them and their skills and knowledge, where we have some pitch or tender for new clients. So this is one example. So basically, Marcel, knowing about all of the people and their skills, was able to basically utilize and optimize the working force and capacity. So we were being able not to dismiss people. We stay with the same number of people, even increase the number of our people within the group.
Incredible. During the crisis.
During the crisis. On the other side, imagine that you're working from home and you have a big, we call this tender we call pitch in this advertising industry. So people from advertising industry, they will understand me. So if you have a big global pitch for some of the clients, and you have people working from home, imagine that. And even to be more difficult, it's creative pitch. So you need to brief people, to
all the ingredients on one place to have a huge mess, right?
Huge mess. So basically, this platform was being able to connect correct persons from all parts of the world, and using this algorithm to have their skills that were needed for this pitch. For instance, Marcel used some of the people that first they were able to join this pitch, which means that he checked that those people are not engaged in some of other clients and they have time to spend to this pitch. The second thing and step was to go and see their skills and to choose just the people from this industry. So you have like a moment where this platform is collecting, let's say, experts from all over the world that have specialized in the skills from that particular industry. And you have all of the right people, you know, like mix of creative people, mix of people that are dealing with research, even media people, because they are also very important for some of the things that we need to understand before going to some of the solutions. So you're mixing like expertise and skills from the people that already work in this industry, you know. And of course we've been able to go to this pitch and to win this pitch, you know, together with those people.
I want to go back briefly on your position as a CFO in this region, Southeast Europe. And we first met a few years ago. And I remember when we first talked, and you told me about that good position that you have because you have a great KPIs, and because of that you have a big freedom to innovate. So even though we are talking about Marcel today as our main subject, can you share with me some successful innovation story beside Marcel?
Yes, that's true actually, because if you have this possibility to innovate, then you know, you will develop a lot of ideas into innovations. And there's a few that I could mention. First one is the business model, because basically we have separate agencies and brands within the same markets, separate services within the same markets, and those brands and people, they didn't collaborate, let's say, and cooperate, because they were separate. There were some kind of silos between them, and this business model idea was to basically melt these silos between the agencies, and it's called Power of One, meaning that there's no basically obstacles between the brands. They are cooperating, they are doing their best to mix the skills and experience in order to service better to our clients. And of course it was successful because clients felt that they have let's say wider focus from our side, that we resolve a lot of problems, and it was a very successful story. On the other side also we break the borders, so basically we start with the same methodology but between the markets, so we cooperate also with the same logic with other markets. Again, very successful story. So this is one example. The other examples were linked with technology. So basically today we have a lot of data and possibility to, let's say, react in real time. So you have now like data-driven real-time creativity, meaning that, for instance, depending on the weather, I will offer you the best possible product or service that I can sell. If it's raining, I will offer you umbrella.
Wow.
Yeah, and it will go to your mobile phone or outdoor campaign on some billboards or something like that, something which is near to you, because we can track your movement and where you are right now and what is the weather. For instance, this is one of the examples. And there's a lot of other small examples, like platform for the learning, which we developed, and basically this is something which is also based on artificial intelligence and machine learning, because it's customized per your needs and per your, let's say, areas that you would like to explore or to develop even more.
How fast did you get the results from that first innovation that you mentioned? How fast you moved from the idea of innovation itself, and when first results came?
First results, if there's a lot of KPIs, but let's say if we are speaking about first result as optimization of the organization, it was like just 1 year. In 1 year,
wow,
basically
incredible.
you lighter the organization, and you saw big success in resulting with bigger profit, let's say. But on the other side, if we are speaking about the service per se, like how the clients are looking for this new kind of service, it was like 2 years that we basically got positive feedbacks, and we saw that this is really working, collaborating with various kind of teams, and focus on some specific clients, so this took like 2 years, let's say, that we got big and successful feedback from the client side.
So you told me good example, but when you innovate, there is lots of try and fail. Can you share me some not that successful story?
Of course, there's always some percentage of failure, But I would use the last one because I was so keen to develop some business intelligent, basically platform which will collect some of the data from the CRM, ERPs, local ERPs. And I have a good idea because actually business intelligence is there for solving some of the issues that I have in my markets. And this issue is that we have developed different kind of ERPs, and so this is the way how to collect and unify everything. And also I have a good intention because this was meant to be for the C line, CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, and all other in C lines users, because basically this will be more efficient way to look at some of the reports. I realized that they are using mobile phones all of the time, or at least 4 or 5 hours per day. And in order to have everything in BI, and to quickly, look, market per market and some of the reports, that was the intention, not to go to some of the softwares, to open reports or to go to emails and open some different kind of formats. So this was a good intention, and we did it together with my team. But after the first, guidance and tutorials that we sent to the management teams, we realized that after 6 months, just few of them were using this software. So I find this as my failure, and I will try to see, what happened and how to improve this. Because I think it's a good product, but it's not good product if
nobody using it. Yeah.
First intention.
But do you have some first glimpse of idea? Why is that? Why nobody's using it?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. I need to deep.
Let's talk again a year from now. Maybe you can share success story.
I will share some success story, feedback.
Okay, so Marcel is here. That's future now today, and I want to ask you, what is tomorrow? What will become with the Marcel, and how this evolution will impact the whole industry?
Good question.
Thank you.
I think that Peter Drucker said, if you anticipate future demand, you will be more than successful and rich. So this question is, let's say, a very expensive one. Okay, for the advertising industry, for sure, the future is shifting from holding companies to the platforms. That's for sure. And I explain why, because this is the organization that the best, let's say, setup of organization that could exist for this current environment, business environment. On the other side, the whole industry will change because we are in the times where we have a lot of data, and so basically now you have this data-driven creativity, which means that before you start to build some campaigns, you have a lot of data and research behind. Then the other thing is like before you have like campaigns that were meant to be for some specific, let's say, targeted group of people. But now in the future, this will be more customized and personalized campaigns. On the other side, for the first time in the history of advertising, we will be able to measure the success of the campaigns. So basically, until recently, we could just say that, okay, we have some measurements of the campaigns, And if you link this to the success of the business of your client, then you can at least say that this has some impact on these campaigns had some good impact on the sales. But now you have you can even calculate ROI of this investment. So basically, if I put $100 in marketing, then I can calculate how many people I can convert into the win, into some sales, and what is the ROI of this investment. So this is for the first time in the history of advertising, for sure. So this is like related to some of the changes that are here.
So exciting times, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Bane, thank you so much for this conversation and insight of Marcel. And for you out there, subscribe if you haven't already, and see you next Thursday when we talk about some other innovations.
Thank you very much.